Hey everyone, it's Will, Gamer Dad, with another video for you. So of course, being that Chapter 10 is now coming out sometime this week, it's really important, of course, to get as many materials as you can in preparation for Chapter 10's drop, since if you're unlocking Chapter 9 here, this new Lunar Ghost City has a lot of materials and mobs here which will help you craft and eventually upgrade these new weapons, the Lunar weapons. And first of all, you only have 4 accessible right now, but after Chapter 10 you'll have access to all 7. Not only that, but you'll have to upgrade them because the rewards are extremely worth it. The weapons have a max of plus speed 30 among some other benefits, and so you really want to get on farming those materials and obviously collecting sparkles as well. And so in the first section of the Lunar City, there are 4 that we can access, of course. There are only 4 areas. The first area of the 4 has nothing. The second area has a horror as well as a sparkle. The third area has a sparkle only, and then the fourth one has an additional sparkle and horror. And so, being that horrors only respawn every 6 hours, in terms of the sparkles, they respawn a little bit more frequently. But my recommendation is to go to these areas at least 2 times a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, or if you can manage to squeeze in 3 tries, you can definitely do that in preparation for the materials you'll need eventually for these weapons. And if you haven't already, make sure you collect all those, materials and craft at least one of each of the 4 available weapons that you can get. And I'll show you that near the end of the video, what kind of weapons they are as well as their base stats. In terms of the mobs, a lot of them are weak to blunt, so if you bring a blunt team, that should be fine. Some of them are also weak to magic or crystal. You can see that lightning does really well here, and blunt. So we do have skull here, which I of course also use in my shade dungeon. Alright, so we've done one run here, and this is obviously after a few days of runs, as well as a few days of running the shade dungeon. And you can see that I have a ton of different materials that we can drop off. So you can see the 4 different Luna weapons we have. And let's go into the store and see if we have enough materials. So first of all, the Moonshade Oil is the horror, and you'll need 12 of them. So if you think about it, you'll have to do at least 6 runs clearing all the horrors in order to get at least 1 of each. So make sure you do that, of course. The base stats are actually pretty good, and of course, as you upgrade them further, once that is unlocked at the end of Chapter 10, then you'll have even better stats. So let me know in the comments if you've already done this, of course, or if you're still working at it. I know that one other thing to mention is that being that we actually have a very short time between the upgrades of Chapter 9 and Chapter 10 in terms of updates, you really want to put all your red keys, if you can, towards completing and refinishing Chapter 9's dungeon, which is the Shade Zerberiya dungeon. And the reason for that is you are actually farming materials for these 2 weapons for the Azul, and these are shade based, the sword as well as the spear. After you buy 1 of each, of course, you can go to the Napo Emporium and then drop off some materials and talk to the upgrade person to see what is needed to upgrade 1 of each of those. And so it would take, on average, if you run all your red keys and buy some from the store, about a week's worth of keys, provided you kill all the horrors as well as all 15 mobs, which I highly recommend doing so anyways. I also will be going over the abilities of these 2 new Azul ones. And so I would say they're pretty decent. You may have more powerful weapons instead, but at the end of the day, a new weapon is a new weapon. You will have credit for getting these to add to your collection, because that obviously if you meet the 40 or 50 of each spear or sword, for example, you do get that 50 Chronostone gold reward badge as well. So I'm just going to pump all my materials into the lance first, and then I will do the same with the sword. So considering that these are shade based, and I'll show you those afterwards, these 2 weapons are going to be very useful. Obviously, we have a shade lance user in Milsha, and we do have a shade sword user in Thililili. And so I do think these are definitely enhanced as well as recommended for those two, although like I said earlier, you will probably have other weapons you can use as well. Some notable ones are, for example, the indomitable weapons, which you can get from the first night, as well as the wisdom weapons that you can get from the auction. And don't forget, if you have done other lands, you will have access to one of the more powerful spears, the Okanaktos. For myself, I do have an Okanaktos +9, and let me just bring up those two new weapons, the Azul weapons, and show you what kind of stats and abilities. So this one has, once you get to +10, the shade type attack is 20% extra shade damage, as well as absorb 2% of the inflicted damage at level 10. So that's actually very, very good, and like I said, it really does suit Thilides' attacks. Not bad at all. So I'm going to go back and finish that up after this video. Now in terms of the Azul Rancha, same thing, 20% type attack for Shade, which works for Militia's end of turn attack, and continual MP regen, being that some of those moves cost a ton of MP. In comparison to, for example, Okanaktos, so you can argue that Okanaktos adds type attack for both Shade and Earth, and so I'll be using Okanaktos over the Azul Pierce weapon in the future. And let me just equip that quickly onto Militia. Alright, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.